Hello, welcome to the Armchair Authority podcast. This is episode 3. Today we're going to go over just a couple of political things, then we're going to move on. First up, we have the government shutdown. It was, I think, 35 days it lasted before they finally came to sort of a temporary agreement. Does anyone else know any specifics on this?
Well, I'm just gonna go on the record and say that I really don't like the tactic of using a government shutdown as a way to get what you want done, because it really you just hold the American people hostage, at least their paychecks, which is quite a crucial component of life everywhere, right? But holding that hostage for 2 pay cycles is quite severe. I guess all the people who are in those positions of power don't know what it's like living paycheck to paycheck, or where not getting a paycheck means missing a bill or something like that. A lot of those people either that has been such a long time ago for them that they've forgotten in that situation to begin with. That's why they think that this method is actually valid when actually it's hurting the people quite a bit, as well as our economy in general. So I just want to go on the record and throw that out there. I guess the other, sorry, go ahead.
I guess to talk about the agreement they came to, which wasn't really an agreement. It was just Trump's approval ratings kept falling, and more people were blaming him, which I mean he wanted to take the blame for it, so I guess that's fair. But he essentially just sort of buckled to Nancy Pelosi's plan, which I think was basically just a continuation of the way things were. But yeah, he was sort of trying to bully it through, and it seems like he's still going to try to do that, because at the end of his sort of sour grapes speech, he sort of hinted at maybe doing a little national emergency maneuver to sort of secure funding for the wall, which is, I mean, it's very authoritarian. I think that people should at least understand why a lot of people call Trump and Trump supporters fascists, because it's a very authoritarian move. He's trying to just sort of push these things through with no regard to the system. Yeah.
But I wonder if he will even do that, though, because you hear the turmoil in the GOP recently about how one of the other senators was yelling at Mitch McConnell and saying why did we even do this or something like that? And then Mitch was like, "Oh, do you really think I enjoy that?" And some sources say that Mitch was saying that, "Oh, government shutdowns never really accomplish anything in terms of negotiations, and why did we even do it again? It's proven time and time that doesn't work." So I think that the GOP might actually put some resistance against Trump doing another one of his tactics. So that'll be interesting to follow as the weeks go by and see if they actually grow a backbone.
Yeah, not every member of the GOP necessarily supports the wall or necessarily even cares that much about immigration. I think the Koch brothers are the big sort of the big financiers of a lot of the members of the GOP. I think they are even critical of Trump's plan to try to build the wall, because the capitalist system really does benefit from having a larger labor force. It's just more people to exploit. So I don't know. Yeah.
I was wanting to bring up another example of a government shutdown, because I don't think it was a full-blown shutdown, but so Illinois went without a budget for it was 2 or 3 years. It just felt like forever. And so then a lot of things were hurt, the schools, they didn't have money, they had to come up with it other ways. A lot of the colleges are hurting from it still. And then in the end, when finally some of the Republicans caved and allowed the budget to be passed, the only problems that were solved were the ones that were caused by the lack of budget. It didn't solve any of the systematic issues that were there when they went into it.
It's just strange to me that the U.S. government can shut down due to a lack of funding. I don't think any other country does what we do.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't make sense. Like, why should the government be able to shut itself down?
Because Congress is saying you don't have any more money to spend on the things you need to do.
I mean, I guess they're not really doing anything in the first place, right? But at least Congress isn't. But for the other branches of the government, some are really pretty essential for like day-to-day life. And even if you're not accounting for that fact, just people not getting paid is a major issue.
Yeah, I think there are like some TSA people that were starting to call it quits because they just couldn't afford to work for free anymore.
Yeah, and like regardless of whether you think the TSA is needed or important, right? There's still people trying to make a living. So discount that fact, whether you think it's useless or not. They're still just people.
This is one of the reasons why like sort of like having the government shut down isn't necessarily terrible for the Republicans, because they aren't really like they're not really the party of the government, right? Like that's the Democrats. The Republicans kind of benefit in a way from sort of like destabilizing a lot of like these government institutions, because if they can sort of destabilize them, and then they can be like, oh well, look, nothing's working over here. We should reduce the size of the government because it doesn't work anyways. It's so, I mean, it's a strategy that they use.
Yeah, I guess I do see your point. I guess if they do it for too long, like now, though, it kind of backfires on them a little bit.
Yeah.
Can we go back to the TSA thing? So the TSA is going to be back for the Super Bowl. So is that just them giving into big business so that and all the money so that the TSA is actually running stuff for Atlanta in the Super Bowl?
I guess. I don't know the specifics.
Do they bring the TSA in every year? I'm not familiar with.
Well, just so a whole bunch of people fly into whatever city the Super Bowl's in.
Mm-hmm.
And Atlanta's already just the airport with a city.
Mm-hmm.
And so it would have been a nightmare.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
I don't think that every single like TSA workers thing was like being shut down across the country. I think it was mostly in like Hawaii. I don't know if like other states were like hit, or
Florida
if they had
was
like
hit.
But so that would have been a couple more weeks, and more people would have quit.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. I just hope that I think the deal was to have the government reopened until the 15th of February, but I hope that another shutdown just doesn't happen again. And hope that Congress and the government just figure out their stuff.
Yeah. I guess before we move along, though, we should probably talk about our opinions of the wall. So, do any of you have like any strong opinions on the wall itself? Do you think it should be built or anything?
I would rather they just stick a whole bunch of people in trucks with ground-penetrating radar patrolling the border. I mean, if they're going to be wasting money, make it a jobs program and work on radar.
That would be interesting.
A wall is so ineffective. Just think about like the Great Wall of China. Like, what is it used for nowadays? Like, maybe it could have been helpful like back in the day, but like, what is it?
It's
now?
a nice it's a tourist destination.
It's a tourist destination. I mean, I guess if the U.S. wants to make the Mexican and U.S. border be like a tourist attraction, then by all means go for it, but don't call it border security.
Yeah. My issues with it, like I feel like first off, like I don't necessarily see anything like horribly wrong with like having a wall there, or like, filtering the people that come in. I guess my issue with the wall though is like it's really more of an antagonistic move against Mexico, and it doesn't seem like a good policy to try to like antagonize the people you share a border with, the people that you sort of need to have close economic ties with. But also, it's just that if we're going to spend so much money on infrastructure, we should actually make an investment that like greatly benefits the country, like building like speed railways, or improving the roads, stuff like that. Because like our infrastructure is really falling behind compared to some like other first world countries, which is crazy because we used to be like leading the world when it came to infrastructure. But yeah,
The actual problems with it. So there's already a border fence in places. as it is now, there's some Americans on the other side of the fence because they couldn't put the fence right at the border.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so they have to have it a bit away from the border. So now there's people on the other side. Then, like, so you try to build a wall down the middle of the river, that just doesn't go well.
Yeah.
Either it kills environmental stuff or it's useless as a wall.
Yeah.
Although I guess the EPA won't care anymore. So.
Well, yeah, because like, that's like the plan, right? Is you put like idiots in charge of like these in charge of like these government things, government organizations or whatever, and then like these idiots like sort of ruin the agency, and then the Republicans can be like, oh well, look how ineffective and dumb this agency is. We should just get rid of it and privatize it. Okay, any final thoughts on that?
No, I think we're good to move on.
Okay. So I guess we'll move on to the other big sort of Twitter drama of the last week. We had the MAGA teams facing off against like the Black Israelites, and there's like the Native American dudes that also showed up. Originally, this was sort of like this video was shown as sort of like the teenagers sort of surrounding like the elderly like Native American dudes and like taunting them and stuff, and everyone hopped on this. And then like more information came out, which showed that I forgot who was there first. It was either the teens or the Black Israelites, but
I think that was the Israelites that showed up first.
Okay, so they were there first, saying some pretty like terrible things, and then the teenagers showed up and also started saying like some things back at the Black Israelites. And then like a Native American dude with his drum walked up through the crowd, and he walked up to like the MAGA teenagers with doing his like drumming thing, and I guess he was surrounded a bit. The teenagers sort of surrounded him, but he sort of he sort of walked up to the teenagers, which was like different than what the original story showed.
I don't know, like I feel like this is just some kind of idiocy going on in the world. Like this should not have blown up this much at all. I think like it's just a combination of a whole bunch of different things. One of them is the kids being stupid kids, and then the iconic picture of this particular incident was like that teen that was smirking at the Native American guy, and I don't know. He's like the kid was like saying that he was like smiling at the dude, but that looks more like a smirk to me than a smile. Like, come on. It's kind of like this, like, it feels like when you look at it, it's like I'm better than you, smirk kind of deal.
It's important to note that like his family was able to hire like a PR firm to sort of handle the publicity as part of it, which is like one of the benefits of being part of a wealthy family.
The top 3 results on Google, if you search smirk, are all related to this.
Yeah, like how is that considered like a smile?
Well, a smirk it's a type of smile.
I know, but like it's
totally
like more defined.
Like
thing.
There's definitely a difference between a smile and a smirk. They have very different connotations. But
wait, hold up though. We gotta ask our resident MAGA Catholic himself, right? Of his opinion on this, because they are from a Catholic school.
That's true.
And they are MAGA people. So, what do you think?
Well, I'm not MAGA.
That's what you say.
I went to Catholic school for a semester.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Catholic schools have their own problems of forming religion, but that's not the point of this. Well, I mean, it kind of is, but no. The biggest thing is, yeah, they're teenagers. Have you ever met teenagers that weren't stupid?
Slowly raise my hand.
Yeah, I don't aside from the few teenagers that were mimicking like the tomahawk chop thing, which was pretty distasteful. Like I don't really think that they really did anything that wrong, to be honest.
Distasteful.
Like I disagree with like their position obviously, but like I don't think they're doing anything really that wrong.
Actually, can we stay on the tomahawk chop thing? Because there are at least 3 fan bases in sports that do that. Being Florida State, football, Atlanta Braves, baseball, and I think Kansas City Chiefs football.
I mean, they did mention that they were doing like a school chant when they like asked one of their like, I guess supervisor's not the right word, but like the people supervising them, one of the adults, and they were like, "Oh, can we like say a chant to counteract this negativity?" Because they thought school chants were positive. So I think that might actually be part of why they were doing the chop.
Really? Wait, they just happened to be doing this tomahawk chop around this old Native American dude.
Well,
Crazy coincidence.
I'm just saying that like it is a school chant which is related to sports, which could be like, you know.
That's a hell of a coincidence.
You could draw the lines. You could draw the line.
You're being pretty charitable.
I'm just presenting another viewpoint here, okay? But the other thing was that
their PR team better be getting paid for this. They have you convinced.
Oh yeah, I'm breaking in all that money right now. The parents are like having a direct transfer to my account right as we speak. But there was a kid that took off his shirt too and was like leading the chant. So that was some like just dumb teen stuff.
Yeah.
On.
It does sound exactly like a football game.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think it's worth noting that, you know, these often like a lot of these sports teams also get hot water over their depictions of Native Americans.
But yeah.
So like this isn't really related to the incident itself, but it's also come out that there is a lot of sort of iffiness around like the school itself and sort of like other students' experiences there, and like issues with like maybe some of these students that were at the protest, they weren't really like fully informed as to why they were there, and they're sort of being like used in a way. Mm-hmm. Like there have been other sort of stories that have come out about the school itself, although that's not really directly related to the incident. But yeah, I think the most interesting aspect of this was that so like the original Twitter account that posted this video, it was it appeared to be like someone like appeared to be like some like school teacher in California or whatever. But it was discovered that was like completely false. So they were using like a false profile picture. Like it wasn't like a school teacher. It was like a false like Twitter account. And if you look through like their all of their post history, they're constantly posting like very like sort of controversial like political stuff like from all different sides. Like they'd post like some like leftist stuff, and then like they post some like rightist stuff, and it was just really like this like shit stirring like Twitter account, and it was sort of like banned for being like sort of a false Twitter account.
I hadn't heard that. That's interesting.
It makes me think that way back when we were first sort of investigating like the Russian like interference in the election or whatever, there was sort of like this. There were like these organizations where they would purposely like try to create like false like sort of like social media accounts in the United States, and they would try to like drum up like fake drama to get like people like invested in it. Like they would go in and they would maybe say some like racist stuff, and then they would masquerade as the other side and like try to combat that racist stuff with maybe also like really overtly aggressive stuff, and they would sort of create fights within the United States over like false pretenses.
Does sound like that, yeah.
It's just interesting how susceptible not only people but like these news organizations are to that.
Well, can we really say they're susceptible if they're like wanting to stir up drama for like the views?
So they're culpable?
Well, I mean, it really looks bad for these news organizations to like bite on this bait so hard, right? Like, like CNN already has like issues with like their public image, but I think they're like one of the first ones to leap on this sort of like leap on like this protesting issue thing.
Think about how much money they just made from the clicks.
Yeah, but it's also like solidifying a lot of people's minds that they're like the fake news channel and stuff.
That's true.
So it's like doesn't look good.
No.
I haven't really heard much mentioned where this happened, because this was its own political thing, because this was the March for Life.
Wasn't it at the Lincoln Memorial?
Yeah, it was in Nebraska.
What?
It was in Nebraska.
Was it?
I'm pretty sure, because like the Native American people were like some Omaha tribe or something.
Yeah, no, but the school is from Catholic Kentucky. I'm pretty sure this was just in the one in D.C.
Yeah, he's in the Lincoln Memorial in Washington.
Oh,
But
okay. I was thrown off because like the Native American dude, they're like part of some like Omaha same organization. But yeah, okay.
there's yeah, this is what was that?
Probably a roommate.
Oh, yeah, this is just yeah, like it's its own political event that happens every year and you don't hear much about. And then I think the
A
next
scandal like this.
yeah. Then the next day, I think, was the Women's March, which had something about racism in the leadership, bringing it down this year. I don't know.
Well,
Who wants to march in January in D.C.? I don't get it. Why not march? See? March in March?
I don't think. I don't think so. That's just too.
It's too cold in January. Oh well.
I guess. But before we move on, I want to bring up something real quick about this particular incident. Is that it was discovered that the Native American man has a bunch of criminal history behind him. That doesn't really matter, I don't think, in this situation, but it was still brought up nonetheless. Like, I think we like to use, like, there's obviously a fine line, right, between like examining a person's past and condemning them for it right now, versus saying that they're a changed person and forgetting and forgiving that. I don't think that applies in this situation. Like, does that guy's past really matter when we're talking about like what happened during this incident at all?
Probably not. I mean, I still haven't seen the video, so maybe if his past had something to do with what he was saying or something, but
Yeah, I mean, I briefly looked over this, but like like the stuff is like from like the 1970s, like a lot of his criminal history. So I mean, I don't see it being relevant at all. It was like when he was like a teenager, like he got busted for like there was like a minor assault and like underage drinking. I mean, it's weird because like people were like, I did see this on like Twitter. People were like slamming him for like, having like a criminal history, and it's like the most like the largest thing he has is like underage drinking, and like a few months ago, you had Brett Kavanaugh up there with his all. Do you like beer? I like beer. When it's just like so crazy how like different people view these things. Yeah.
I mean, there was also the thing about how he lied about his involvement with the Vietnam War, which I guess can like shoot down his credibility. But then again, he's not really like saying anything in the video except for just chanting, right? So
wait, so was he not actually a veteran?
he was like a maintenance guy, and he wasn't actually deployed, I think.
Oh, I think my grandfather was like in the Philippines or something during that. Some war.
I don't really know if like this guy's credibility really matters because he didn't really say anything.
He didn't really say anything. It was just like, so I'm just saying that for people who discuss these things and say that that has an effect in the situation, I just don't think so. I think this is like the wrong pieces of evidence applied at the wrong time. Like, sure, if you're like gonna say something like if he's like giving testimony or something like that, whatever, maybe that could apply there, but like not for this situation.
I think it's just the life lesson of if you don't want your past being brought up, make sure you hide from any attention. Or have such a common name that they can't find anything on Google easily.
Well, the Indian guy or the Native American guy, being politically correct here, had Phillips as the last name. That's pretty common, right?
Yeah, but it's about both names. Like if you have an uncommon first name, then yeah.
His name is Nathan Phillips.
Okay, yeah, that feels like
that's pretty, tame.
Yeah, if we could go back a month, we could actually test Google to see how the algorithms work, but not anymore.
Yeah. Unfortunate. Well, I guess we could wrap up this topic now. Do you guys have anything to say about this particular thing?
No, I think we covered pretty much everything.
All right. So I guess we will head into a short break before moving on to part 2 of this podcast. Now, we'll see you guys back here soon. Part 2 of the Armchair Authority podcast. Now, not too much that's meaningful to us has happened in the gaming section. So part 2 today will be a list of assorted random topics that we just found interesting. Now, the first thing to talk about will be gaming related, and it's related to the DeepMind AI in StarCraft 2 that was able to beat some of the pros. I think beat one of the pros in all 5 matches, another pro in 5 matches, but eventually one of the pros did get a single victory on that particular AI. Now, it is quite impressive that people are able to create AI that could beat professionals in like RTS game as complicated as StarCraft. Now, it can be debated how impressive this victory really is, since the AI obviously has some massive advantages over the player that physically can't do tasks in such quick succession. But I think the fact that we did get to this point is pretty impressive in and of itself. Now, what do you guys think about this topic in general? About AI, about
Well, I would say it's impressive just because it took this long. It's not like they weren't trying until now.
I think how long ago did they announce they were starting on this? Like a year or two ago or something?
I'm not sure, but I can look that up.
Anyways, so like one of the reasons why I think one of the reasons why maybe this isn't going to be like, this is obviously really impressive, but maybe it's not like massively impressive compared to some of the other things they can do with DeepMind, because in StarCraft 2, your macro like really matters a lot. Like your just mechanical ability to sort of operate your base and build it correctly and stay on the correct time. And this is something that the AI could do perfectly. And in a lot of cases, really, in StarCraft 2, just having superior macro can win you the game. So in a way, like this AI can sort of brute force its way to victory, especially when you have like the PvP mirror match. It would be interesting to see how well it does if it had more limitations placed on like its mechanical ability in terms of how many actions it can take per minute, and also just like how it would handle like other matchups if it got expanded to those.
I mean, I personally think that I want to see the AI versus like the top pros, because like these guys, I'm not really familiar with either of them, and the fact that they aren't Korean there kind of just says like, oh, is this really the best test we could have given it? I want to see a Korean versus the AI, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that. I mean, DeepMind would still be able to like have like better macro and better micro than any Korean player as well. But I guess the gap would be closed.
I mean, yeah, because like the Koreans are like our StarCraft 2 overlords, right? Like, general consensus like the Koreans are on a whole another level from like the other players in the same game.
Yeah, in recent years, you've seen more Europeans. Was there even like, wasn't there some tournament won recently by like a non-Korean? I don't really remember.
I think so. I do remember that, but I think
whoever it wasn't involved in this. So.
I wonder though, like if a part of that, going off the AI bit, is that StarCraft 2 is a dying game or a dead game already, and the Koreans just don't care as much about this dead game, so the gap closes because.
Well, yeah, the gap's closing, but it would still mean that like, relative to like testing this AI, going as a Korean player doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be massively different. a top European player or whatever.
Yeah, I see your point.
I don't think either of these people are necessarily like the top. But anyways, yeah, no, that's impressive. It's just I almost get the feeling that sort of like can brute force its way to victory with its like vastly superior like macro and micro abilities. Yeah.
I still can't seem to find the day when they started development. Maybe we'll just leave that as a mystery for now. I can't seem to.
I want to say like I remember them announcing it like a year, maybe 2 years ago, but. Yeah.
I guess we'll just have to stick with that.
One like scenario they mentioned, which would be interesting, is if they made this like AI, like if they made it capable of playing all of the different matchups, maybe they could like reach a more definitive answer on like which like race is like the best. Because all of them have perfect macro and micro abilities, then. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. I wonder if they could do that for like Brood War instead, though. I would like to see that for Brood War.
Yeah, I guess.
But anyways, moving away from the AI topic, here's a random thing that seems it's funny when you actually look at the situation. So the Warriors, after winning their championship, chose to go have dinner with like our previous president Obama instead of Trump. Normally the whole thing deals with after they win the game, they go visit the White House, blah blah, blah, visit the president. But it's really interesting to see that they visited Obama instead of Trump. It's just like another stab at the guy. I mean, I guess with what Trump provided last time to the last sports teams that went there, just like fast food, I don't really blame them. But, you know.
Yeah, I'm sure dining with Obama is better than eating soggy, cold chicken nuggets with Trump.
Yeah. I just like the precedence it starts. That why do they even meet the president? It's just like the status symbol. There's no point to it. Just meet whoever you want. Audience with the Pope or some scientist, or meet with Kanye for whoever.
Why do you have to meet with someone after you win though? Like, what's the point? Like you said.
I guess the trophy's not enough.
I guess just for fun.
Just
like I don't like personally like I don't know if I really buy into the whole big like starstruck by celebrities thing. But I don't know. It's just I guess sort of like a life kind of like thing. Like I had dinner with a previous president. I mean I guess it's a cool story you can tell. I don't know.
Mm.
I guess the story would be better if you were eating with Obama rather than Donald.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I mean, I'd rather have dinner with Obama. I think Trump might be the better story.
Nah, that is true. That is true. It depends on how you want your story to be.
I just feel like dinner with Obama would be so much more relaxing. And Trump seems like someone that'd be a lot more like on edge,
Yeah.
But that edginess would make for a better story. Like if you think about like the calm, collected people, like they're just normal. They're just like you see them, they're normal walk of life. But when you like crazy people, that gives you a much better story, right? That's why the people are naturally drawn to more eccentric people.
I wasn't even aware the presidential visits had food before this whole Clemson thing.
You think they just walk by and like, shake his hand?
I don't know. Yeah, isn't that what happened in Forrest Gump?
What do you mean, you're this guy? You should know all of this stuff.
Where are the Warriors even from? What sports do they play?
They're from Golden State.
Golden State, dude. Like KD went there.
That was the Golden State Warriors. Oh, okay. I didn't know who. Like I've never heard of them referred to as just the Warriors. I always hear them referred to as the Golden State Warriors. Wait, aren't they the ones that are like killing basketball? Like,
yeah, they were. Because, well, see, they were already killing basketball. Steph Curry doesn't make sense. But then they got Kevin Durant and just broke everything. No, it's not fun when they have Durant. Get rid of Durant. More Steph Curry.
You know, the one type of sports fan that like annoys me the most are like the ones that are just like sort of the bandwagoners who are just like, dude, I just like watching greatness. I'm just a fan of the best team in every sport. Like those types of people, like they're just a fan of like the Golden State Warriors. They're a fan of like the Yankees. They're a fan of like the Patriots. They just like I just enjoy watching greatness, dude. Like those kinds of fans, they're so annoying.
Have to
What's your
be a fan
perspective
of
on that, Robert? What's your perspective on the clout chasers of the world?
I don't like those fans at all.
Yeah, yeah. It
The
just seems really
underdog story, though, is much better.
What other story?
The underdog story.
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
I think it's more compelling.
Yeah, it doesn't happen very often because math.
No, yeah, of course. But it's still nice to see happen once in a while.
Although
The drunk idiots of the world just like watching one team stomp on the other teams. They unironically just like really enjoy that. I just don't get it.
from what
I mean, go ahead.
I was just going to say, from what I understand, all the sports teams like thinking they're the underdog. Like even if they're undefeated, they'll say, "Oh, no one believes in you." Blah blah blah. No,
Wait.
Yeah.
Then again, though, I must confess, I do enjoy watching the Koreans stomp everyone else. I must say.
I mean, I guess I like watching a good even game.
maybe I'm just an undrunken idiot, but there is some sort of fun in a stomp, as long as it's not your team getting stomped.
I think stomps are sometimes fun to watch.
Um, I don't know. I like watching everyone brought to their limit. That's like the best.
I like that Clemson stomped Bama.
Yeah.
Right. Well, after that little tidbit, I think it's time to move on to our question section of the podcast. Now, this time I have a question for you guys. Something regarding a moral bank account. So let me set this up first. So let's say that you do some sort of good deed. You know, you help the old lady cross the street, you help her carry her groceries, whatever. Does that make you more likely to do something bad afterwards? Because you're saying like, hey, I helped someone. Now I've done something positive. Now let me go balance that out with something negative. And you don't like consciously think about balancing it, but you kind of use the positive thing as a justification for like doing the negative thing. Now, do you think that this phenomenon exists? And if so, do you see yourself doing that?
It seems like it could be real. Yeah. Like, I don't know that I've consciously done it before, but odds are I probably have. Because if you'll be less concerned about doing bad if you're feeling good about yourself. So yeah, it makes sense.
I don't know how much this phenomenon exists. I'm a big believer in more of the pessimistic view of it, of
That
you just do your action and ask for forgiveness later. I think people are way more likely to do a bad action and then try to like do something good afterwards to try to like balance it out. I think that's gonna be like way more common. So like someone like Tiger or not what was the bicyclist dude? Lance Armstrong, like he might like roid his way to victory, but then he'll donate a bunch of money to charity. Or like some like like a Catholic might do like a really bad like they might like commit adultery or whatever, and then they'll do like the confessional thing to make it like better.
Was that a stab at our resident MAGA Catholic?
No, but that wasn't it. Just I've heard people like have this mentality before.
yeah, they do. They shouldn't. And if you do a sin with the knowledge or planning that you're just going to you're going to confess it later, well, that's worse.
Like yeah, I have family members that are Catholic, and like unironically they'll like do like things that they know are bad, and then they have the mentality of like, oh well, once I go to church, like everything will just be fine. It'll be all like nice and dandy again. And
That's like the worst sin or one of the worst sins. I think technically the worst one's blasphemy against the Holy Spirit, whatever that means. But that's bad.
So I think I think it's very common for people to sort of make their withdrawal from like their moral bank account and then later try to make it up. It's all
Yeah. Little do they know that just like economically, they're deeply in debt.
Yeah. Well, I didn't phrase the question like in the opposite way, but I was intending for like the opposite as well. So yeah, I agree with your sentiment. Latter is more common than the former.
Yeah, it's like so much easier to ask for forgiveness later, right? Except they're asking forgiveness from themselves. But yeah.
I don't know. Personally, I probably have done something like this before, but I can't really recall any like specific circumstances in which that happened. Maybe it's just my brain trying to block out those parts of my life just to like make myself feel better.
Like
part of it.
On a non-important level, I was going to say like the whole you exercise and then you eat worse.
Oh yes, that is true. That's 100% true. I do that. I'm like, oh, I just exercise. I burn like a meager 200 calories, and then I eat that chocolate bar that's like 400 calories, and it's like, even though it's like the net gain is worse for you, but you still feel good about yourself.
Yeah.
That's a big chocolate bar.
Yeah, it's probably it's like relevant to I guess dieting especially. Like I think in my day-to-day life, I'm not really doing any like actions that are like have a lot of like moral weight to them, you know? Like unless you really want to dig deep and be like, oh, you're buying like, you know, clothes made in like sweatshops or something. I guess I'm doing like that stuff, but like I'm not doing anything I would say that's like super like that has like a lot of weight to it. Like neither like good nor bad, I don't think, in my day-to-day life.
You're eating beef and worsening global warming.
Yeah, those are all like small things that I guess like add up. Sure, but
Edward, besides ghosting people, right? You know, how does that influence your moral bank? Does it actually go up instead?
I would have to recognize ghosting as a moral wrong.
I think we could do an entire podcast on ghosting.
As a moral wrong, but you do it all the time.
I'm saying I'd have to recognize it as a moral wrong, which I'm not sure if I do.
Oh.
I suppose, in a way, that if you recognize nothing is wrong, that's the easiest way to keep your conscience clean in a.
Yeah, that's a religious belief, Edward. You're tending towards religion.
What do you mean it's a religious belief?
You're like, oh, it doesn't really like apply to me.
That's not it at all. I just don't see like why I would be like compelled to like answer somebody's like I don't know message. Like I'm not like responsible. Like I'm not like but I'm not like responsible for like someone's happiness, right? Like as long as I don't like infringe, like if I don't go around like stabbing people or whatever, you know, then it's fine.
As long as you're okay with other people doing it to you, I guess.
I don't know. That's kind of my problem with the libertarian model, is it assumes that we don't have impacts on each other with doing nothing. Like, if everyone in my life were just to ignore me, I'm not going to handle that very well.
If I'm like sending what I assume are like shotgun like invitations to a bunch of people and some of them don't answer back, then like that's cool.
We're not talking about shotgun invitations here.
I mean that's what I assumed this specific incident was.
No, not shotgun invitations.
I don't think I was being invited to like go on a date. It wasn't like a one-on-one situation.
I mean, you still do it in one-on-one situations, though, so I don't think that really matters, right? Yeah.
What kind of one-on-one situations?
Didn't you ignore like Robert's message one time?
Yesterday?
Don't think so. The one in
Skype.
Yeah,
that Skype message? Yeah.
Well, you ignored that too.
I ignored that because I never saw it. Skype has a record of who saw it, and I saw that you saw it.
Okay.
So
I did guess that, yeah.
I didn't see it because it never like Robert sent it to me like at 1 something. I was still at work, bro, and it didn't notify me when I came back.
Yeah, I didn't really care that much, but yeah.
Well, I'm just saying, like this tangent.
That's a bit like I don't know. That's a bit different than like asking someone to hang out and they don't like respond.
Even what if it was like a one-on-one thing where you ask someone if you want to hang out and then they just ghost you?
Yeah, that'd be pretty bad, I'd say.
Yeah.
Well,
Because it's like reliant on like you being there. Like if I don't like attend like a party, the party still goes on.
Yeah, I know. I think we're thinking of like different situations. I was thinking more of the one-on-one thing.
Yeah, no, I try not to do that.
Even asking someone and then they don't respond, I don't think that's that bad. Maybe they just didn't see it. Now, if you had something planned and then they ghost you, that's about the worst.
Well, that just happens all the time. That's a fact of life in our generation.
It is, yeah. Because we're all a bunch of flakes.
I beg to differ. I would say that I am 99% of the time not a flake.
Yeah, but also you don't do this very often. But that's what I'm
true.
saying. It's the people who are doing it that are being the flake. Because isn't that definitional almost?
That's true.
Yeah, I don't think that ghosting, like, sort of like group invitations or whatever, I don't see that as being a huge deal. But if it's like a one-on-one thing, then yeah, you should probably answer.
No, yeah. I agree with your point 100%. Like, if it's a group thing, like, if you want to show up, then just say you show up. If you don't want to, you don't have to respond.
Yeah.
I agree with that. But
I guess it also depends on how closely knit is the group.
That's true.
Yeah,
depends on how big the group is, too.
If it's a Facebook invite, probably not. If it's a Facebook invite to a birthday party, maybe. Yeah. If it's a 5-person group, probably answer it.
To me, the threshold is just how like important is my presence. Like, does the whole thing kind of like fall apart if I'm not there? Then like I should probably answer. If it doesn't, then like I don't really see it as a big deal either way.
Well, any more thoughts about this particular tangent or the original question at hand before we close it off and wrap things up for today?
Maybe Edward undervalues his presence.
Maybe. Potentially. I could see that happening.
But no, I don't think I have anything else to say.
All right. Cool. Well, that will be the end of episode 3 of the Armchair Authority podcast. Now, coming back in the next 2 weeks, I kind of have some ideas of things to do. Maybe some tests to take beforehand before we start the podcast, so we have something to discuss. But I'll leave it as a surprise for all you guys watching. Well, by all you guys, I mean just 0. But
Zero, yeah.
But
or like us, like in 30 years when we rewatch this.
Yeah, it's like a
YouTube's be around in 30 years.
Time capsule on YouTube.
I mean, the NSA will have it, but
yeah. Anyways, we'll see you guys in 2 weeks.